Hi there, I'm Gabe, the creator of Fluent Forever, and I wanted to welcome you to our introductory webinar explaining how you can use our app to learn a language as quickly as possible. So let's get started. Before we go into the app, please be aware that the visuals you see in the webinar and what you see in your app, they can differ a little bit based upon the progress you've made so far. Some areas may be locked, so please keep that in mind. Here we go. The app is based on a simple four-step method built around personalized flashcards using a spaced repetition system, or an SRS for short. The SRS is an extremely powerful tool rooted in neuroscience and backed by years and years and years of research proving its efficacy. In general, an SRS will help you learn a new piece of information, or in our case, a word or a sentence, and it does so by helping you review that information periodically with less and less frequency until you commit it to memory long term. In our app, we use this principle along with our four-step method, which is simple. 1, you train your ears with pronunciation lessons. 2, you learn vocabulary through images instead of translations. 3, you learn grammar naturally and intuitively through stories that are relevant to you. And then 4, you practice your speech to fluency using native speakers or native tutors. When you first open the app, we'll get you onboarded and ask you a bunch of questions. And then after that, we'll start you on the first step, which is pronunciation. We start here because you need to learn what a language sounds like before you can learn how to speak it and be able to recall the sounds. In this section, we use very specifically chosen words, which will train your ears to be able to distinguish between similar words that are spoken to you instead of everything just blending together. Combined with the other flashcards in this section, like spelling flashcards that teach you how these sounds are written, you'll rapidly learn how to recognize the way a word should sound or be pronounced just by looking at it. This process, it rewires your ears and eyes to hear and recognize new foreign sounds really quickly. Ultimately, the pronunciation lessons will train your listening, speaking, and spelling skills. Once you've added these pronunciation flashcards, the lessons will disappear and they'll get added to your review sessions. Try not to focus on the meaning of the words used here, but focus solely on hearing the sounds of these words, practicing their pronunciation, and learning their spelling. Now you might be wondering, why are we starting here instead of the vocabulary like everyone else does? And the trick is that when you learn vocabulary before pronunciation, the words end up sounding foreign to you, and you tend to forget them as a result. Taking a small amount of time right at the start to focus on pronunciation, that makes it a lot easier to memorize new vocabulary for the rest of your language learning journey. That said, we've learned that it's actually easier to hold on to all this pronunciation information when you connect these words to meaningful images rather than just playing with a bunch of text and recordings. So even though we're asking you to focus on the pronunciation of the word and not the meaning, we will add an image too, just to help as a visual cue and to make everything more interesting. That leads us over to the process we use for creating flashcards. When you're doing this, you're going to be choosing an image each time. And it's always important to use images that really resonate with you. We make that possible by giving you an intuitive search engine that you can use in our app. Choose 1 to 4 images max that really make a connection for you with the word you're trying to learn. You can see that in this presentation that we're learning the word family. Some images for family return random families that work pretty well for this card, so I'll add a couple. But I can also add a much more personal touch here to really help me remember. Suppose I were a big fan of the TV series Modern Family. I can search for an image related to that show and add that image to the card. Even better would be to add an image from my own family, for my camera roll. We also have the draw function, a handy little tool that enables you to draw images for your flashcards. You'll find that function here in the section where you can add your own personal photos. In pronunciation, you'll be able to watch a variety of videos that will teach you all of the key things you need to know about the pronunciation of your new target language. Once you've watched those videos, they'll be stored under watched videos in pronunciation, where you'll be able to rewatch them as many times as you like. Step by step, you'll learn a new pronunciation rule, and you'll create pronunciation flashcards for that rule, and then you'll be able to review and ingrain what you've learned over in your review sessions. The flashcards that you build in this process will give you a variety of tasks that are intended to help really train your ears to hear the sounds of your target language. Tasks will include, being asked to replicate the sounds you hear, along with trying to hear the difference between two almost identical sounding words. These are called minimal pairs, which are word pairs like, niece and knees in English. There will also be tasks to help you review the spelling of new words and sounds that you learn so that you can start linking those new sounds to how you write them down. As a heads up, the pronunciation lessons can be quite challenging, especially if you're a beginner in your target language. However, over time you'll find that they get way easier. The more reviews you do and the more your ears adapt, you'll find that your ears will actually get there pretty quickly within a couple of weeks. The key thing to remember is when you're doing this initial step, this pronunciation step, that builds the foundation that you'll need later to really learn vocabulary and grammar rapidly afterwards. So be sure to spend some time really working on this part. Once you have, then we can start getting vocabulary into your head really, really quickly. Now, our method for learning vocabulary is quite simple. Instead of learning clumps of vocabulary in categories, learning all your color words like red, green, and blue, which end up being quite hard to recall long term, we create carefully crafted word associations, connecting words like apple and red and delicious. Those associations create a strong foundation that allows you to learn words and sentences faster and faster over time. This is an ongoing theme in what we do. By building a strong foundation in pronunciation, we let you learn words faster for the rest of your journey. And by building a strong foundation via word associations, we let you learn sentences and grammar faster for the rest of your journey. We'll build your word foundations with some of the most common words in your language. We have 625 of them in total that we'll focus on during this stage. As you learn those words, you'll personally select images that create a unique word association that means something to you, and therefore makes it easier to recall. Second, the spellings and sounds of that language, that foundation, those will get naturally reinforced due to the practice that you had back in step one. And so you get this bigger and bigger foundation. And then third, because you're connecting words to images, you're going to start learning to think in your target language rather than just memorizing translations. And by the way, if you're curious about how we chose those words, you'll find some super useful videos in the How to Learn More Effectively section on your homepage of the app. So check there to find out more details. Now let's discuss the words section in the app. These flashcards are for helping you build that initial vocabulary foundation in your target language. When you start creating these cards, you might notice that we're specifically not teaching you categories of vocabulary like food items and holidays. We avoid categories, and we do that because it actually takes you twice as long to learn, let's say, 10 words in one category as it would take you to learn 10 random words. And you'll only retain those 10 words in one category for half as long as the random ones. For example, say you learned all your colors on a particular day. A few days later, when you try to remember, the word for red, your brain ends up doing double duty, trying to recall not just red, but all of those colors, and then differentiate between which one was red, the ones that you learned that day. So, in our app, instead of learning a group of fruits or a group of colors, you'll learn associated words like red, apple, delicious. And at the same time, we're going to make sure that every word is visual so that you don't have to use a translation, and also really common, so you're not learning rare words like apricot or blouse. This strategy builds foundations really quickly and teaches you to start thinking in your target language. Now, let's talk grammar. Contrary to what you may have encountered in school, you don't truly learn grammar by memorizing grammar rules. The human brain learns grammar intuitively by pulling in tons of sentences and understanding how they work. That's how you learned grammar as a kid. You just encountered a ton of sentences and your brain filled in the gaps without your parents sitting you down and explaining the subjunctive. So we use a similar tactic in our app. We teach grammar concepts in the context of sentences. In the app, you'll see all sorts of sentences with different conjugations and or tenses. They come in different levels of difficulty, length, and all sorts of grammatical constructions. You notice some sentences that are shorter and simpler, while other ones will be longer and have lots of conjugations and vocabulary and overall complexity. The goal is to find sentences that are interesting to you, rather than us insisting on a really strict curriculum and applying it to everyone, regardless of their level or interests. So it works like this. Back on the home screen, you'll see grammar, which consists of sentences built around the words that are available in the app. Every sentence you see can reveal aspects of grammar to you. and will automatically build all sorts of flashcards from every sentence that cover things like word order and abstract functional words and conjugations. We keep grammar grounded in sentences because it teaches you to think in the language rather than translate. That said, some people really enjoy sitting down and studying grammar rules. I'm actually one of those people. And as long as every rule has clear, interesting example sentences, then that can be an effective learning method as well. So for those folks, the grammar nerds out there, we're currently working to provide grammar articles in the app as well. And by the way, if you're ever confused about how to choose an image for a sentence, we have videos about that in the How to Learn More Effectively section on the home screen that we mentioned before. So at this point, let's talk a little bit about what sorts of things we throw your way during your language learning journey. As mentioned above, once we take you through pronunciation, then we'll take you to simple words in the 625 word list. Soon thereafter, we'll encourage you to start branching out into sentences and grammar based on those 625 words. There are going to be multiple sentences to choose from for every word in that 625 word list. Once you've chosen an example sentence for that word, the word will disappear from this section because we only want to add about one flashcard or so per word in the beginning. But don't worry about losing your chance to eventually learn, 2 or more sentences for a particular word. You can still find all the other sentences for a particular word in Search for Sentences. All you have to do is go to Grammar on the home screen, then tap on Search for Sentences, as you can see in this image. And then you can search either in English or in your target language, and you'll be able to see any available sentence cards. Or you can create word-only flashcards if you're just want to learn the simple single word. So for example, if you search for phone, you'll get sentence cards with the word phone in them, as you can see in this GIF. But you'll also have the chance to add it as a single word card too. That would be the right call if you're at a beginner level and you're just not quite comfortable using grammar and sentence cards just yet. And so if you do, you'll just make a simple vocabulary flashcard instead of one of those more complex grammar and sentence flashcards. Next thing. Suppose you want to learn a random word that may not be in our 625 word list. In that case, you can learn any word you can imagine using the search tool in the words section. This feature allows you to add any word and its existing audio to your card in the target language. With a quick search, you'll be able to see all sorts of available translations, as in the example that we're showing you now. And if there's not a direct translation, for slang words or really specific other words, then you'll be able to add the word's translation regardless. You can do it yourself. You can add a custom translation with its corresponding audio to that flashcard. In those cases, after you've typed in and selected a translation, the rest of the process will be the same as when you added words from the 625 word list set. Now, right now, you can only add word-only cards in terms of this whole custom word thing. We'll have a function planned that will allow you to add sentences in a similar fashion, and frankly, I can't wait to release this to the public as well. Now let's get to the last step in our method. This last step is learning and speaking with a native speaker. This is available through our Fluent Forever boot camps. These are available for French and Spanish, Latin American Spanish that is. And also we have live coaching programs available for the rest of our languages. The boot camp is a 12-day program that will allow you to spend some time every day with one of our coaches who will help you create personalized sentences about your life, which then get added to the Fluent Forever app to review and study. Personalized sentences are kind of magical. They end up doubling your learning speed. And boot camps are one of the quickest ways to add a whole bunch of those personalized sentences to your learning process. They're a good fit when you have a trip coming up and you want a big boost to your language skills right in advance. Our live coaching programs are similar to our boot camps, but they're designed for more sustained growth. They're monthly programs where you meet with your coach once a week for 20 minutes, create sentences together, and then have those sentences added to your app as well. We also offer daily and twice weekly options for anyone who wants to have more sessions. All of these options are designed to really launch your language in a very short amount of time, and the results have frankly been amazing. It's kind of everything I've wanted to build for the last 12 years. If you're interested in any of these kind of one-on-one session concepts, check them out via a link in the email that you'll receive right after this webinar ends. So that's it in terms of the method. And now let's bounce around a little bit in the app. As you can see here, the app tracks how much you've learned as you go along. The known words are the words that you've reviewed well enough to go beyond your short-term memory. Don't be too focused on this number, as it can take a while before you can see this number go up. When you do, you'll see that it's your review sessions that make it happen. You do your reviews, you mark cards as correct, and the SRS knows that you're just starting to learn the word if it's, the first time you've seen it. So we don't immediately add those words to your known words, but in time, you'll definitely start to see this number rise as you mark things correct more often and often. Also keep in mind that every word you mark as known in the sets or in the sentences, all of those words will immediately be added to your known word count. Now, if I'm going to pick one part of our app that is the most important, I would say it is the review session. Here, we test our knowledge, and in the process, we seal in the new words that we've recently added to our flashcards and pull them into our long-term memory. The reviews work with an SRS system that we designed specifically for language learning purposes. What that means is that we have a system in place which learns with you. It knows which words you know well, which words were tough for you, which words we need a little bit more time in order to be able to recall them more easily. When you mark a word as forgotten, the SRS will repeat the word a little more often for you until you can easily mark it as remembered. That's why it's really important to be honest when you're marking words as remembered or forgotten. But it's also really important to remember to mark remembered or forgotten based upon the type of flashcard that you're seeing. For example, remember earlier we told you that pronunciation flashcards are only for testing you on your pronunciation? That means that if you don't remember the meaning of the word correctly, but you do accurately pronounce it, you can mark that as remembered. That's the thing that we wanted you to know. So it's important to pay attention to what you're being tested on with the flashcards. So that's reviews. Let's shift over to the daily tasks on the home screen, since that's what you're going to see most often. These are mostly meant to guide you through the absolute minimum you need to do daily in order to make significant progress. All of the goals that are presented to you here on this screen, they're meant to be a tool to guide you when it comes to card creation and review. But they're not hard and fast rules. They're just recommendations. There's no penalty for failing to complete goals, so don't stress if you miss days or certain goals. Tomorrow is always a new opportunity. We've designed our home screen in a way that the daily streak task, the one right at the top, is enough for you to learn your language just a bit, make a little progress, and most importantly, build up your language learning habit that's going to get you all the way to the finish line. But when you complete the other daily tasks and the bonus tasks as well, that will of course help you progress a lot quicker. You'll notice over time that the tasks you see over here will actually change as you progress in your learning. And if you're someone who needs a little push to stay motivated and consistent, I find that seeing your streak go up can be really rewarding. It's also a really easy way to continue to build your consistent daily learning habit. All you'll need to do is complete the daily streak task to maintain that. You'll find your daily streak up here and on your progress screen. Remember, the tasks on the home screen will always guide you in your learning. So when you're lost, if you get lost, just follow those tasks and you'll be sure that you're going to progress in a consistent manner. So that's how the app works.